So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming for this first edition of Meet IoT. Meet IoT is an event, it's not a conference, there is no papers, it's not a scientifically founded conference, but it's an idea that me and Caro Medaglia had some time ago. And the idea basically was to have a place where nowadays there are plenty of events related to IoT. But we thought that they were missing, in a sense, some kind of perspective. And we were identifying, in a sense, 5 areas. And these 5 areas will be the one reflected in the panels that are today. Together with these panels, we were thinking that something that would be interesting is also to show how IoT will impact our future. And we've been to many of these fairs, we've been to many places, but what we really wanted to give the idea is that how this technology will have an impact. And so we decided basically to have some kind of exhibition in which, there will be some kind of fil rouge between different ideas, between different makers, between different companies, big and small and medium. And basically to show, in practical terms, what will happen with our future. Now, today, what you're going to hear for is basically to listen to 3 panels. And these panels were decided a long time ago. And the idea of these panels is really to have a kind of a broad vision and completely different point of view, hopefully. The idea is not to have lectures, but to have a kind of interaction between the speakers and the audience. And actually, this theater is actually perfect, because there is no physical break between, in a sense, the podium and the public. And that's the idea that we want to push in Meet IoT. There is no physical distinction, there is no barriers. So every idea, is a good idea as long as has some fundament, and we really need, in a sense, to discuss, and we really need, to focus and to crystallize, on a few points. So the panels, the first one will be policy, and in this panel, the idea is really to discuss which are the major policies, how policies can actually influence and interact, with the development of a sustainable IoT strategy, and how, in a sense, they can hamper or how they can push, for developments to be taken. The second panel is economic development. We all live in a business world, in a sense, in a material world, and we all know that this kind of technology, like any kind of technology, will not make any sense if there is no, basically, some sort of economic fundament to it. If there was no, let's say, value added, it will be very hard, to have any kind of adoption of this technology. Social. Something that we should never forget is that these devices, will be used by all of us and will be used for every single day for doing many different tasks. And how the use of these devices, will impact basically the social life and how the people are actually using them and how the people are actually playing with them. And what is the social acceptance of these particular technologies? Technologies, and that's another aspect that we have. So technologies is basically which are the kind of development that we need in order to make these technologies affordable or to make this technology work. Do they have to be cheaper? Do they have to be, for instance, smaller? Do they have to be resistant or resilient to harsh environments? Do they have to be secure, and so on and so forth? And we will have, quite a few speeches over there in the area, basically enlightening, which are the different areas that need to be pushed forward. And finally, the last panel, last but not least, I would say, is urban. We all know that these technologies, impact cities, and especially smart cities. If I take, for instance, what the European Commission is proposing, recently, I mean, a lot, is this IoT technology is applied to the smart cities and smart cities environment. And therefore, I mean, you know, how this kind of technologies, I mean, will be working in this urban environment. And we are in the city of Rome, which used to be called the Caput Mundi, I mean, the capital of the world. So we thought it was a very good idea, I mean, to analyze, I mean, how these technologies, I mean, will work in cities. I'm actually cutting short my time because we started a little bit late. So I will not wait any further. And with this beautiful picture of the Vatican City, I would like to introduce the first panel. So the first panelist is Britta Thomsen, which you have the mic yet and everything is set. Perfect. So let's open the first panel, which is the policy one. So Britta, the floor is yours for 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Alexandro, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak at this very important seminar, which I think it's setting the agenda for some of the most important challenges that Europe will be faced. On the contrary to you, I'm old-fashioned, so I still stick to papers. As a politician, I don't used to use slides because I like to be in contact with my audience. I was a member of the European Parliament from 2004 to 2014, and now I am no longer a politician, but I have started my own consultancy called Britta Thomsen Consulting, a global enterprise, and I am based in the Institute of Technology at the Copenhagen Business School. So in the future, I will not bring my speech on a paper. But what is interesting is to follow the development of technology concerning the politician. Because when I started in the Industrial Committee on Energy, Technology and Research, the most heavy committee it's also called in the Parliament, the interest for technology was not very high. But step by step, politicians realized the role of technology, and finally in 2010, we adopted a report on the possibilities concerning IoT. And the conscience of the role of IoT and technology in general was becoming increasingly very high, because the politicians saw that information technology can promote social development and economic growth, raise productivity. Not least today, we need to raise productivity in the service sector. And here we should study how we could do that with the help of technology. But also encourage research and innovation and creativity among European, both public and private institutions. So there are many challenges ahead, and therefore we realized we should develop political frameworks because we could see that IoT will develop very rapidly in the years ahead. And it will be applied everywhere in manufacturing, but also to the new demographic situation, where we will see for the first time in history, I have a background as an historian, that there will be more elderly people than in relation to the people on the labor market, and we will never have had so many people outside the labor market compared to the people in the labor market. And people are becoming very old, not least here in Italy, the oldest population in Europe. And this means they have very few children, that they also need e-health system, for instance, to take care of us instead of personal caring as we see it today. But also in relation to the whole development of the smart city, an area where energy will play an important role. As you know, the majority of European population live in big cities, and we have an increasing consume of energy because people demand more heating, more cooling, and therefore we don't produce energy in Europe, so we import energy, sometimes from hostile countries, and to reduce that dependency, we need smart energy. Also to reduce greenhouse gases, the climate situation is becoming every day worse. We have one solution, and this is all the smart grids, smart metering, and in the European Union we have also adopted a directive on increasing the use of wind and solar. But wind and solar are not stable energy sources. Sometimes they are there and sometimes they are not, and we cannot store them. Therefore, we should be able to export to each other with a grid system that could bring solar from Spain to the UK when the grids there will tell the other grid that it's now raining and they need it. So with this smart grid system, we can combine the wind and solar that are not stable with conventional energy, but we can also save energy and reduce our consumption. We can also have a computer system where the grid system speaks with the washing machine in the house and tell the washing machine when there is abundant energy, so that the washing machine starts itself when it's the more cheap time, cheap energy, because the production is high of, for instance, wind energy. These are things that are being introduced now in a big scale in European cities in what we call the smart city. And this also means that, for instance, concerning energy, that people can receive more energy than they spend, and then can start selling the energy to the neighbors. So this means that we also will see another type of enterprises, because now energy is something sold by few, often state-owned, but also energy sales enterprises that are privately owned, which have this monopoly of controlling the energy. But in the smart city, it will be different. So the division of wealth, of ownership, can also be changed with the Internet of Things. But how can we as citizens survive in a smart city? In a smart city, you need smart citizens. And I think that we have not focused enough on that challenge. During my 10 years in the Industrial and Technological Committee in the European Parliament, I have attended many hundreds meetings with all the technology, with the whole technology sector, all kinds, and the focus was always on the technology. The focus was also on the technology when big enterprises introduced new ICT system in the Danish police. And the day after, it was not usable. Money was wasted in ministries, everywhere. Because we did not include, or they did not include, the human side to use the full potential of the technology. And if we don't focus on the human side, then we will not be able to take the full advantage of the IoT. It should be inclusive and accessible to all EU citizens, and not only for an elite. And we should empower the citizens with e-skills and the knowledge of their digital surroundings. Let me give you an example. In my home country, Denmark, the government has decided to be ahead on the digital agenda, and this year, 1st of November, all citizens has got a letter that they cannot communicate with the authorities any longer, except via ICT. So an old person that's a problem with a pension cannot go to the municipality office as we use. They have to contact via ICT. And how do we handle this? 20% of the Danes are ICT illiterate. They are not capable of opening a computer. But this is in Denmark. In some of the other European countries, there are much more people that are not capable of opening a computer. In Denmark, it is primarily people 60 plus, and 2/3 are women. So now we have a big challenge of how to make people, how to equip them, how to help them, how to give them personal service so they can go and interact with the authorities. And I think this is one of the biggest challenges after the second industrial revolution in the 1890s for a modern society, that everyone should be connected via ICT. Therefore, the design is very, very important. We should include people when it comes to design, so we make it user-friendly. And I tell you, the geeks in the computer enterprises, they are not in touch with what the people they need, and therefore we have seen so many failures, and this is something we have to do something about, not to widen the digital divide or even create a new one. We should include, when it comes to e-health, the elderly, the patients, the consumers, the families, the healthcare staff in the design of the new technology. Otherwise, we will have to overcome big, big problems, and things will become useless. And I think in this context, we also need to study the social impact on Internet of Things. Would like that the Commission will come up, European Commission, with some research possibilities in this area, because the smart city will develop now, and it will include every area of our life. This is also why some people started to say that they don't want to participate, because they are afraid of the data security. What about the privacy? We are at the moment making a big directive, a big legislation in the EU, and I can tell you this has been the most lobbied legislation ever in the history of the European Union. Biggest lobbyists are Google and Facebook, because the battle is about who owns your data. Do you own them, or do Google or Facebook or other big data? Big data will be the big things in a few years, more important than our banks. Not to offend you from the Brazilian bank, but big data will be very, very important. And many people start to become scared of what can happen to the data. It's within the area of health, it's within all other areas where you feel you have security, health, banking, etc. So this is something, if we want IoT to function, we really have to take care of is the data. Then I would like to touch upon also one thing I think is very important when we talk about ICT, not least in the Western world, in the old industrial society, and it's a dimension of gender. Why are women not studying? Why are women not studying data ICT in the university? In 1983, 37% of the students were women, and it's the only discipline in the university where the number of women have gone down. And there are very few women now, and if it continues like that to 2032, there will be no more women studying in ICT universities. And here, government, they have a role, because I think without women in the process of designing, and not only a world of geeks, then we will not get in touch and produce products for the majority. My daughter is a gamer, So I went with her to the big game messe in Cologne, and we were amazed. 97% of the people there were young, overweight men. And I can see in the statistic that 48% of the gamers are women. So gamers will also play an important role in the IoT. Why are enterprises not hiring women? Perhaps they could be even better in creating games for women, and they could win that way and increase their sale. I was invited here today because in the Copenhagen Business School we have arranged a group that we call IoT People, and Alexandro is also a member there. And what is the meaning with IoT People? It is to make a community. It's a non-profit community where we try to share knowledge and we try to spread the knowledge on IoT. So we are politicians, we are researchers, we're enterprises, we are trade unions represented in the IoT People. But 90% are men. So we should also do some things there. But I think we have, we really think there is a benefit in gathering people in workshops, and we already had a lot of workshop seminars with these different kind of people. And I would ask you please to sign up at our website, IoT People. Thank you very much.